Today we're making a leather thread shortener or a lighter. What we're going to do is, this is like a fabric paper, don't know how to describe it, easily rips, works well for quick little projects and just trying to make a basic template. So what I'm going to do is cut a straight line, or straightish in this case. Bit of tear at the end, got to change the blade. Okay, so once we have a straight edge, we can sort of see how long do we want it on the straight edge. So what I'm going to do is take a little set square, get it flush with the edge, hope this is sharp enough, and cut a line. Then we're not even going to measure or roll it. What we're going to do is we'll go along, and now this is only 5 centimeters, but I think maybe, let's have a look. If I say we go 9 centimeters down, that will give us plenty to roll with. But this is just the template, so this isn't wasting leather. Height, you need to think the template needs to come up, have a stitch line, and roughly in the middle. So I'd actually say that the height of whatever this is, so you could say like a 9 centimeter by 9 centimeter square will give you enough material to make a quick template. We'll move that to one side. Now, these are both Bic lighters, but if you look closely, there's a slight difference in width size. So when you see these 3 templates to make a lighter holder, yeah, they'll fit the lighter they tested it on, but maybe not the same. So we'll stick with the black one for now. And I think this project will be so quick, we'll possibly make 2 in one video. This is what they call grade B leather. Okay, now what you can see or not see, depending on the lighting on the camera, this part of leather here, it's a lot thinner than this. It's actually possibly the backspin skived down, but this other part is lovely. I mean, there's a couple of light dark bits, but maybe that will clean out. But what I want to use for a lighter holder, which I'm not selling, I'm just going to use it for my little videos, is I'm thinking we could make it from this here. So I'm going to start with a straight edge, and because of the magic of video, I quickly went off and fetched a different knife. So now we've got at least a straight edge to work with. Luckily, this little set square just happens to be the right size for this job. So we'll just line up the edge. I'll cut a line here. And it doesn't have to be accurate, because after we put the after we've put the stitch line in, we're going to be trimming the edges to make it look good. But I just want it straight around the top, because the bottom is going to be trimmed. So there, another line here, And then what I'm going to do is just make the square or squarish square. And that should now, it's a little bit bigger, which is good for us because it gives us, if you compare, it's a bit of a thickness difference. So when you wrap it, you lose a couple of millimeters. But we can go from here. I guess folding it in half would be the easiest way, wouldn't it? So there we go, in half. Line up to where you want it. So in this case, I want it somewhere just under the metal because the metal gets hot. And what I'm going to do is use two-sided tape to stick this down. It's around 5 or 6 millimeters. I can't be precise with some of these, I'll say international tools without trying to sound too bad. But I'm going to overcut the length of what I need. And use that as a basic line. Now, I am no good at taking the sticky tape off. I watched a video and what they did was they somehow used the corner of they pricked it. And I can't do it. Or did I? There you go. So a scratch-all is definitely the easiest way of removing the tape. So what I'm going to do again is try and find my marks. But I'm also thinking maybe we should try and put another piece of tape there. Then we can do all this. I was going to do it in 2 steps, but I've realised, you see, that's how planned this video is. So if we go roughly at a right angle, that should, when it folds up, come down and lock that in place. So again, let's try that again. Give it a flatten to make sure it's all good. And somehow hope it doesn't turn into... Oh, did I get it? No. Aha. So what I did was I used just the tip of the scratch-all. There you go. And it came off. Just into the tape. Lay this out the way we want it. Don't know whether I want... Yeah, it doesn't matter actually, does it? Once it's in. But we need it sort of in place. Give it a wrap and then tighten it down. So we can see that that's sort of going to work. Look at that. Next, we need to be concerned about the bottom. Let me just push it down a little bit. Then I've got it to the height I want. And then we'll just try and do this piece of tape at the bottom. And push it down so it sits. Yeah, that's sort of sitting now on the the base. Look at that, it's so easy. I thought I was going to get tricked and something difficult would happen. Now obviously I could cut it with this knife, but for speed we're just going to use a basic wheel roller. We're going to imagine we know the line is roughly there. I think on the first tidy up cut we'll just take it down that line, flip it over. We know the tape is here, so I'll just take it the other side of the tape to there. So either just the other side or it'll be on it. We'll double check that it fits. So far so good. So far so good. Now I'm starting to see that will work. So what I'm going to do is quickly and efficiently run my stitching lines down here, follow it up here, and then we can always tidy the edges afterwards, or the corners as well. So these are my favourite tool. I've got a big hammer, but today I'm not going to use the big hammer. I bought this in Estonia from a crafting shop. It's a good little tool, but the bolt keeps on coming undone. But we'll just double hit it, not through. So we'll take it to the board. Okay. So obviously you can see, punch straight through. That's because we're hitting onto a hard surface, and the cork works better with the cheaper pricking irons, the ones like the diamond shape, where it's more of a cutting. This is more of a punching. So that's the first lot of holes in, and to be honest, I'm going to trim as I go. So I think that starts tidying it up. Yeah. I'm now going to switch and try and make a bit of a corner here. So as you can see, we've got a straightish line now. It's pretty tight to the edge. Now, that hole, I think, is too tight to the corner. I could get away with it. So I should start again. This is where I will be putting my dilemma into the thing, into the video. I've never made one before. What I'm going to do maybe is rotate here a bit more. trim away the small hole and try and not incorporate into the corner, but basically include it in the corner. Okay, that's close, but it's not as close as it was. So now, rather than, I should have planned better, I guess. We're gonna just run an imaginary line from here up to the top. Gives me something to follow. Maybe I should have done that in the first place. This is where you learn on the first one, and the second one you've learnt your mistakes, you learn from them. And then what I'm going to do is, you can see here that this stitch is going to not fall correctly. So I'm going to go back here with the stitching iron, move it to the line, we're going to now put the black lighter in, make sure it still fits. How tight are we to the corners? And test it. So, as you can see, I'm not happy now. What I think I should do is put a hole here and remove this hole here. But this isn't going out on display. You'll only see it in YouTube videos. So maybe let's be rock and roll, I think. Let's make the first one a bad one. We'll take a line and try and make it look as if we made it this way. Right, so there we have it. I'll stitch that up in a moment and bring it back. But at the moment, this fits nicely. It comes down and sits roughly where I wanted it to. In fact, I need to push it up a touch. There we go. And what I will actually do is stitch it with the lighter in place, so we sort of try and mold it to the shape a bit. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do now is test to see if this template fits the second lighter. It does. So we're going to find another square of the lower grade leather, because after all, these are not being sold. They're just so that when I'm doing my leather work, I've got a little holder for them. And again, we've got our straight line that we're going to use. So I'm just going to roughly move everything out of the way. And prep and cut a bit. So which is the straightest line. I think that's scrappy looking, so we'll do that. We'll fold this in half. As you can see, a bit scrappy looking. We know this already fits, so we'll run a line down, cut that, what we'll do is this time is we'll fold it over so it meets. Okay, maybe about that much. And before we stick the bottom in, see roughly where we want the line. So about that much will allow for the corner and some sticking room. And no, I never have any luck with double-sided. We'll just try and ease it off like that. Brilliant, that's better, that's so much easier. I'm making sure the tape is bonding. Okay, that corner's flapping, this one's lifting, so off we go. I'm just hoping by watching this video, I'm sort of showing you that if you make something as a prototype, which this one is, they don't come out perfect. But when you go to do the second one, you should have a whole lot more joy or improvement. So as you can see, that is looking a lot better. What did we learn by the last one? Well, we learned that the corner is the trickiest bit to punch. So I'm going to mark, I think, let's have a look. Fold it over, push it down. I quite like how snug that is. So I think if we put our corner stitch about maybe here, and then maybe there. What do you think? Does it work? It's gonna work. Right. Straight through like butter. Now we'll take and double check where we want the stitch line to end. As you can see, the corner's a lot better this time. Look at that. Okay, so there, and we want the last stitches maybe up to, let's have a look at the side, this side. Okay, this side more or less about here. So we want to run a line around there. I'm glad in leatherwork, with small projects like this, they can be quite forgiving. So what I do is just quickly scratch all the line in. Stampity stamp. and tap bang. Next one on the line, tap bang. Now this one is actually working out kind of nice. So already we've got a good line, but we don't want to go too tight to it. So there's two options. We can either sew it and trim it, or trim it and sew it. I really want to do we'll do the trim it and sew it on this, and we'll do the trim it and sew it on that. But we'll be mindful of that corner. So we've got a bit of a corner. We know where the stitching is. We'll try and be a little bit mindful. We just want to take a touch off. And okay, it's flaring out a bit, but I'm still, after the last one, a bit annoyed with how that went. So we'll try and tighten it up a bit. Then we'll try, there's the straight line, so we'll follow that back a bit, give it a bit more room. Look at that. Okay, so Mark 1 was not brilliant, but Mark 2, you can see the difference straight away. So what I'll say is, if you're ever making a cigarette lighter holder, just use it as practice. Use scrap leather and use it as practice for your sewing. But I'll be coming back to this video once they're stitched, and then we'll see how bad this corner turns out. Okay, after a quick stitch up, this is for this lighter, so we'll just use this to trim the thread. I've done it in bright orange or a contrasting colour, so it's easy to see on camera. And tight corner. Now the tight corner didn't come out too bad, so this is where we find out how good or bad it is. There you go. Okay, that's all the way down. It's almost to the line. I wanted it to. Let's turn it, see if we can turn it around in there. Put it up a bit. So if I was to make it again, maybe I'd have it a bit shorter, so it could go in either way and not interfere. Okay, and I just trimmed the edges a little bit with a pair of scissors to make it a bit more rounded. Which way? We'll try this way first. This is a lot more snug. It's roughly to the line that I wanted it at. So there you go. I mean, you can decide. But for me, I think stitching, putting your two holes for your corner first gives you a better trim line. That's a lesson I've learned, and I'm sharing that lesson with you. But you don't need to buy a pattern, and you certainly don't even need to download a PDF. I mean, I use this like a fabric paper,